Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here, everyone in person and online. It's the last talk of the conference. It's been a great year. Yeah. All right, so this is the State of Django 2022. This is the U.S. edition. We have sister conferences all over the world, but this is our U.S. version, and we also have friends from all over the world here with us today. So. So the friends we have represent eminent voices in the Django community. It also implies a level of familiarity and comfortability with the Django community, but I'm expecting to learn here today as we ask these questions, and I picked some questions that I want to know the answers to as well. And they were also given from feedback from people online. There was a forum that went around. I know I got some really good questions from people as well. So hopefully you'll feel some of the questions you have represented up here on stage. All right, so I'm going to go through, and we can go from my right to the left of the stage, and we can have everyone introduce themselves, their full name, their pronouns, and their relationship with the Django community, and your favorite icebreaker question. Yeah, so I'm going to go first, okay? Yeah. I always said I wasn't going to change anything, and I changed that one. I'm sorry. That's the only thing I changed. So my name's Dawn Wages, she, her pronouns. I am the Python community manager for Microsoft, software engineer for a few years. And in my relationship with the Django community, I help organize these events sometimes with a really great crew. I organize Django Girls events, and I am a product of Django Girls 2016, so it's been really exciting. Yeah. And I also want to give a special shout out to Philly Python users groups. Don't forget your streets that made you, and I love them to death. Yeah. All right, so let's go left to right.
Hi, I'm Carlton Gibson. I'm he, him pronouns. I'm Django fellow, and I do Django chat with someone else over there. My favorite icebreaker?
Icebreaker question. Oh, I didn't do that one either. Okay, my favorite icebreaker question is, what is your favorite mythical creature? And I like to answer, I am a fairy. So,
that's good.
There you go.
That's good. I've been married so long, I'm not sure I have icebreaker questions.
Okay.
They used to be quite cheesy. I couldn't say them now.
Hello everyone, I'm Andrew Godwin. I'm he, him, or they, them pronouns, either one's fine. And yeah, I've been around Django for a while. That's probably the best way to describe it. These days I'm a principal engineer at a company called Astronomer, which we actually work on Airflow rather than Django, but I still do a lot of Django stuff and Python stuff in general. So I also come here just for the people, as I'm sure all of you have realized over the last few days. And my favorite icebreaker question, I don't have one of it. Yeah, I don't know. What's your favorite hobby, probably? Because I have like 25 of them, so that's a good match. Yeah.
Hi everyone. My name is Mariusz Frisiak. I'm he, him pronouns. I'm a member of the Django security operations team. I'm also a release manager of few Django versions now, and a Django fellow since 2019. Question.
Yeah. This is the hardest question you're going to get on stage all day, though.
Yeah. I will probably not figure out anything clever now.
He will be here all day. Okay.
I'm Jeff Triplett. I'm a vice chair for the Python Software Foundation. I'm also the president of DEFNA, which is part of the nonprofit that holds DjangoCon US, which I think I've been helping since 2014. I'm also a partner and an engineer at Revolution Systems in Lawrence, Kansas. I was kind of lucky to work at the newspaper that created Django a couple of years after it was open source. Also, I help run Django News and Awesome Django with William Vincent. Also run Django packages, so I have no icebreakers whatsoever. So I'm sorry, I failed you, Dawn, from the beginning.
No, it's okay.
All right, hi, my name is Rachel Calhoun, she, her pronouns. I am a software developer at a medical device company. My relationship with this community is I'm also a product of Django Girls. Yeah, out of Seoul, actually. That's where I got my start, and now I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I organize local events for Django Girls and PyLadies. I'm also a trustee for the Django Girls Foundation. My icebreaker question, it was hobbies, so that's it. Nothing
Sure.
else exciting.
Hi, my name is Will Vincent, he, him. I have a couple books on Django, but most of my community involvement is I'm on the board. I've been the treasurer the last 3 years. Django Chat podcast with Carlton, Django News newsletter with Jeff, awesome Django repo with Jeff, some other things. I like to ask, what's your favorite ice cream flavor and why isn't it coffee?
That's a good one. Cool. Awesome. So we're going to jump into the questions now. So Django has received over 78 million downloads in 2021, a rise of 20% in 2020. Downloads in the past day, I checked this morning, was 365,394. Last week was 2,078,438. And in this last month was 8,799,900 downloads. This is all courtesy of PI stats. The PI is the Python Package Index, which is a behemoth. We had a couple of talks that talked about that today. That is the index for Python packages. And of these, we posit them, a good number of them are beginners. And my question to the group on stage is, what do we do to encourage and tend to the beginners in Django?
Start. I would say contribute and support Django Girls. How many people at this conference I've talked to, and I said I work with, or I volunteer with Django Girls, they're like, oh, I always recommend everyone do the tutorial. Yeah, it's amazing. But we have to keep it that way. That means we need contributors. We need to work on the tutorial. We have translations, 20 different languages right now. And we have to keep that up as the technology changes, especially as the first experience with Django, I would say. My second point that I would like to kind of bring up is maybe we need to work on making those, removing the barriers to deploying your first web app, right? And make that experience even smoother. They don't necessarily need to learn Git, GitHub, and how to manually deploy. And so there was a talk about Django Simple Deploy. Yeah, doing something like that with Django Girls would make it so much easier, not only for the attendees, but also the coaches. So that's kind of my take on it.
We have time for someone else to weigh in.
I mean, I have a million thoughts, so anyone else but me. I think having some tutorials in the Django project, like Hello World, would help, having basic CRUD. I think the biggest thing is actually, on the board, we help sponsor the conferences, but getting people to come and meet the community. I think once you come here, you're going to invest more time and see what it's all about, and so finding ways that we can make it more accessible, being online, opportunity grants, anything we can do around that, I think will help.
Semi-hot take, I guess. When Rachel was mentioning about making Django beginner-friendly and that deployment story is what comes to mind for me. I think Django is really good by default at settings working for beginners, but I think settings in production are the exact opposite of, you just cannot take a default Django start project and deploy it into production. So it would be, I've got ideas for that too, but that's an area I think that's not that hard that we can fix, but I think it's something that needs to be emphasized.
Any more thoughts on that? Cool. All right. So at the risk of editorializing what actually is a beginner, I wanted to add an underlined point that Django is such an opinionated framework as well. And so I think that it makes a beginner out of a lot of us who may owe it to ourselves to give ourselves a little bit of street cred as well. And so in that context, I think there are beginner and intermediate type access that we can do without alienating the audience. So for example, can you go into detail a little bit more about Django Girls for the audience that may not know, and what is Django Girls?
All right, well, Django Girls is a community that tries to inspire women to get into tech. We have a tutorial that takes you from, what is the internet, to having a Django project deployed online. And it walks the attendee step by step. So we do workshops where we have coaches, volunteers from the community. Please volunteer if you can. And to guide them and to assist them answer questions. And yeah, does that cover it? Am I missing anything?
It was good.
Right.
It was good. And I kind of threw that one in there. So, all right. So there are a lot of different ways to make an impact in Django. For example, the Django Software Foundation Board of Directors, which is the nominations are open now. The Board of Directors guides the direction of marketing and governance and outreach, provides funding, resources, and guidance for global Django events, and works closely with corporations and individual members. So nominate yourself. You can nominate yourself for 2023. It's open right now. The elections are you can nominate yourself by November 4th, 2022. And if you have questions about applying, you can email foundation@djangoproject.com. So just want to put that little plug in and a call to action for people who may be interested in making more of an impact in Django. So I didn't mention this at the outset. I'm the treasurer and director for the PSF. I'm on the Wagtail core team. More ways and more flavors and intersecting and eccentric circles on what our community can do and the ways that you can make impact. And let's say I am a member of the community, but all of you are now members of this community as well, and you have a great idea, not to be confrontational, but you have a great idea, and you want to know how to make it work and how to impact the community with this idea, whether it's code or community or otherwise security and safety. I ask the audience or the panelists on stage, what is the process to go through that? How do you recommend someone approaching giving a really good idea for Django?
I guess I'll start here a little bit. Do you want to go first, Carlton? No? Okay. He'll get there. It's going to be good when he gets there. So, I mean, my perspective, right, like, I think there's always two flavors of contribution. There's the big, like, I want to do this big change to Django. With those, my encouragement is, come to us with the idea first and talk about it on the mailing list or even maybe the forum these days of like, let's talk it through. Like, Django's been around for, at this point, scarily over 15 years. Many of the ideas have come through before. The fact we didn't do them then doesn't mean they're bad. It just means there's historical context to bring up and talk about as well. If it's a smaller idea, you can go much quicker. And obviously the two fellows here either side of me probably have a better idea of how to get small patches and stuff in. But generally, like, those need less discussion. If it's a bug fix, almost no discussion, really. But those can happen on track. But I'm sure one of these two can elaborate a bit further. Maybe.
Marius, you go.
Go on, yeah.
So yeah, if it is a big idea, then probably the best way is to start a new thread on Django developers mailing list or on the Django forum. Because as Andrew said before, there are some ideas that were discussed in the past, and sometimes it's better to start a new thread and ask what to do if we want to have this in Django, and not waste time to implement it before the discussion starts to reduce the level of frustration if it is reduced at the end. If it is something related with community, I would say that sending an email or using a contact form to the DSF board is probably the best way to start.
Any more?
I have one thought, is that there is a kind of negativity bias against adding new features because each new feature brings with it a maintenance concern. So I just say to be aware of that. And it's not to put you off. And if you're first, you can't say, here's my idea. And if the first response is a bit like, can you, don't be put off. Like, advocate for your idea and explain why. And, really, bring out the underlying yin, that this is what this is going to serve. And maybe your idea wins over converts. Or maybe someone else pipes in with, we could satisfy this with that. But try not, it can be off-putting because of that negativity bias, but that negativity bias exists because Django's downloaded how many times a day? And we can't break it. We really can't break it. So that's why the negativity bias exists, is all I'd say.
Awesome.
Yeah, we need to keep it maintainable and also friendly for beginners. So there is an issue with keeping a right balance between all batteries that are included in Django and keeping it friendly for beginners and also for newcomers. So adding more options is not really user friendly all the time. If users need to make decisions that we can make for them, and in most of cases we made in the past.
And one more comment on that too. Something I've done over my years contributing to Django, I've started as a third-party package, right? Like channels was third-party before we moved some of the stuff into Django Core. Migrations was a third-party package called South before it was in Django Core. So like, if you do have a big, complex thing, don't be surprised if one of our responses is, well, have you tried writing this as a third-party package? Because A, they're not tied to our nice, slow release cycle for stability, and you can iterate much faster. And then B, it's a good way to prove the idea. And so often the advice can be like, well, yes, we like the idea, it sounds good, let's try it externally first, and then see if we should merge it into Django later on.
That's great. I learned something. That's awesome. So we've had a few questions about production-ready applications. It's prescient and top of mind. We've had a few talks this week about production-ready applications as well. But there's a lot that's involved with it. It's more than just coding and deploying and securing and shipping the code. It's also employing the people to maintain the code in enterprise applications as well. So just the entire gamut. So this is going to be a little bit of more of an open question, so it doesn't have to be around code. What are some suggestions or forward-looking initiatives to support people who are doing production and enterprise applications with Django? And maybe we could start down on this end.
You don't have to say.
No, but you don't. Anyone can pick whoever's interested and excited.
I mean, you're excited, Jeff.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll lead in here. So it's very interesting, right? Like, I think, you know, as we sort of heard earlier and throughout the conference, Django doesn't really come out of the box ready for production, so it can be a bit tricky. And I think, you know, as a former SRE myself, there's a whole operational side of the industry that is often underlooked. So, I mean, my view, I think, especially is, you know, I'm not going to beat the documentation drum here again, but like, we don't have amazing documentation for deploying stuff. Actually, we deleted some of it over the years. So we were like, oh, Django doesn't want to tell you how to deploy. Like, that's not our responsibility. Sometimes I question that. Sometimes, like, maybe we should have much better, like, here's how it works on these commercial providers. You know, that's with Heroku vanishing, especially. That's maybe more relevant now than ever.
So on that thread, I mean, we have the Django deployment checklist, which I would wager many people don't know about, let alone use, and yet it provides a checklist for your deployment. So we could highlight that more. There could be something around a start project -- production type of command. Those would all help. But I mean, yeah, the docs. I mean, I'm excited for this new wave of hosting companies, platform sponsoring, and the others, I think, do lower the bar for many types of deployment. So we perhaps could cover deployment in the docs a little bit more and have a story, whereas before it was so dependent on, they were more different in what they were doing. But it comes back to like the size of Django itself. How much can Django do? I mean, my own journey is, my first time I came to this conference in 2018, I was like, why doesn't Django do this, and this? And then I met all the people and understood, well, this is why. And it's basically the people in this room who do Django. And the response is, you know, negative bias is like, if you feel strongly, like, you do it. You know, you create the PR, you can do these things. And so maintaining that level of being friendly to beginners, but also understanding why things are the way they are, hopefully this panel brings out, because everyone means to be encouraging, but, you know, we're all keeping things afloat here, especially the folks on that end.
So I'd just say for companies that are trying to deploy Django, trying to build a bigger scale application with Django, if there are things that are missing, we want to hear about that. So our priority is make it easy to use for a beginner. But if you're deploying it at scale and you're saying, look, at scale, if you're the enterprise, you can customize. But what are the hooks that are missing? Tell us, show us why. Say, do you know what, when we hit this scale, this happens. We need this. Oh, that's a really interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, I think just to finish that one off, like, I have over the time, I started off at an agency writing small websites, and then these days I write big single company applications. So like, there's such a wide variety of ways you deploy. But yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Carlton. Right? Like, there are things in Django that I've put a few of them in over the years, but like we should absolutely listen to everyone who's doing this and draw that feedback. I think for a lot of like, well, everyone says they actually want this thing, so we should just put it in.
Fill out the Django developer survey if you haven't, and if you have feedback on what we should ask next year, tell us and we will ask it.
Awesome. And we had some great points, but we didn't have any conversations about the employment part as well. And I'd love to underscore and kind of circle back around to that. What is it like employing and searching for jobs as a beginner, and then as a special kind of employment journey as an intermediate developer and with very specific knowledge in one way of deploying or one way of production or one type of feature, and how does that work, and how can we help the community evolve?
I mean, I guess I can speak
Sure.
a little bit to that
Sure.
from personal experience. When you're jumping in to like first jobs or second or mid-level or senior, everyone is like, well, what level are you, or what do you know? And it depends entirely on your past, and it's not like very clear categories to scale, right? So I don't really like that question. If you want to have a bigger question or a conversation about like what that means, I think that's more important, and like what they've done instead of just like a checklist. Because sometimes it's like, yeah, I'm familiar with that, or I've done that, or similar, but it's not necessarily like this specific thing. Can I talk about hiring practices and how, because that kind of ties into it?
Yeah.
And one thing that can help recruit more people at your company, for example, is taking out gendered language in your job posts, including pay ranges in your job posts. That's a big one, and I know that it's not always easy because there's HR, and maybe you don't control all that, but I'm speaking to all the posts in the jobs channel on Slack. But stuff like that, and also like hiring outside like professionals that actually know what they're doing, because oftentimes you're interviewing people, maybe that's not your expertise, and they can also help with diversity and inclusion, but also understanding why having a diverse team is important. It's not just like we have a diverse team, right? That it adds value to your team and your product. Oh, also Claire from Django Girls, she wanted me to say that if you want help writing those job descriptions, or if you need assistance, she is a resource, and she wants the community to reach out to her, and she's willing to help. Yeah.
Can we get that?
Claire at DjangoGirls.org.
Cool.
CLAIRE. Also hello at DjangoGirls.org. She's hello too.
Awesome. Dropping resources. And I've gone through this recent experience as well, and I would consider myself more mid-level Django engineer. And I noticed that there's a lot of maybe like take-home projects or certain things like that. And I don't think Django or the entire engineering industry really has the right way on hiring. I mean, you're asking people to do work at home for free. And it also gets kind of in a weird gray or even a scummy area when you're trying to ask them to do things to fix your problems on their own time to prove if they can do it. And I've seen that happen before a couple of times. And it's just, I want to highlight ideas about having real world problems, but then also like we run on trust, and you can't decision model out the way of risk of getting to know a person and figuring out whether or not they're gonna fit in that use case. So really adding a people first approach to the hiring practice sounds a little hokey, but I think it's the only way to go to do it the right way, So we can keep moving on. We did a good amount of time on that one, which was great. But I wanted to talk about what it's like, or how can we create an atmosphere where people who are not white or cis or hetero or identify as a man or of a particular age or of a particular background or of a particular country or is neurotypical. How do we create an environment where they feel comfortable at Django and in Django community? And then how do we help them stay and how do we get them back year after year? And it's not just necessarily about this in-person event, but matching the contributors of Django to the audience that is also using Django, and getting them involved in the community in that way. If we have any thoughts from the panelists.
So one quick one is the board. We have, I think, pretty good representation right now, but we really want the board to be as global and representative as we can. So even if you're earlier in your career, like you can still be on the board. You don't have to be, committing to Django itself. So the board is one way to do it, but it's an important one.
So having been around Python for a while, when I first got into Python, I didn't think it was the most inclusive audience or very diverse, and I felt like eventually Django came around, and somehow the Django community in some ways has helped pull Python forward. Now this is my very biased take on it, but from my seat, what I've seen over the years, that's kind of the progression that's happened. Now though, the Django community's done so many things right that they're, and in being on the Python Software Foundation board, one of the first things that always comes up is, what is Django doing? What is the DjangoCons doing? And now we're getting to a period of time where I think Python, CPython, the steering committee, I feel like in some ways they have solved some problems that we have yet to solve. And I think we need to look at what they're doing. Now one example is we have, and the way code and the way like technical decisions are decided, it's still technical decisions. But CPython has had a steering council for a while, and the people who are on it, some of them haven't written C code ever, and some of them haven't written C code in 10 years. Now, I don't know that Django's doing anything wrong, but I don't think like we're really leveraging our community when it comes to what is the future of Django, what is the future of Python, like CPython's able to do. So, Carlton, I feel like you have a...
Yeah, I agree absolutely with you, Jeff. I think one thing we don't do is, so the technical board is all white men. And we've got this requirement in the governance of Django that to be a candidate for the technical board, you have to have a kind of recent involvement in the development of Django. Now, we've kind of interpreted that as quite a strict thing in the last few elections. It's like, only white men who've been active on the mailing list have stood. But perhaps we could loosen that restriction or get rid of it entirely. I mean, that's a conversation we have to have, so that any member of the community can be a candidate for the technical board, and then absolutely guaranteed they get elected, because the Django community is a diverse body, and we just don't sort of show it. When you look at Django, it's all white men, but it's not.
Yeah.
As a member of the technical board, I do think the name steering committee is better as well. Like, names have power, right? Like, the name technical board implies it's like people meeting in a darkened room making like amazing decisions. We barely talk about stuff, right? It's not really that, like in my opinion, like, yes, we should have a group that I think lays out the vision for Django, and I think steering is a much better word to use for that. And I also think expanding the remit of that to be much more about outreach and direction and how Django as a community and project grows, rather than merely just as a code base. I think that's kind of important to me as well.
Are
we doing hot takes?
We are.
Hot take.
Marius and I definitely have a hot take related to this. Do you want first?
Yeah, so my hot take is that we need a mentorship program. We need a mentorship program for new Django core developers.
Cool.
So that is something that I'm personally missing, and I think that we'll find volunteers to be mentors.
Cool.
I would like to see a Django grants program, which we could do, for example, if the technical board spec'd out 10 projects that are doable. If people need funding, the board can help with the funding. If they need mentorship, we can coordinate that. But to keep pushing Django forward, because there's any number of things that need the right person with 2 to 3 months with some mentorship, and it'll get done. And it's just a bit too much on a volunteer basis to expect of anyone. And again, if funding is the issue, we can expand the pool of people who can do it as need be.
I just want to second that, I've tried to say that, historically excluded groups of people are just that, excluded, and they often don't feel comfortable stepping up or making that first connection. So if there's a mentorship program, somebody that you can read, hey, why don't you try this? Or hey, you'd be great at this, and just kind of bring them along and include them actively. I think that would also help along with the mentorship program.
Yeah, Django project has in several years participated in the Google Summer of Code. That was just very, very exciting to have that happen. And I've seen firsthand it on, not in Django project, but in a sister project, summer project. And I love programs like that. So I just absolutely underscore. Sure, yeah.
So we're lucky to have two fellows on stage, I think for the first time in DjangoCon US history. They can't do it all. So a lot of the things we're theorizing, it isn't their jobs to do that. So I'm glad that they're happy to help you do some of this stuff, but we really do need more people too willing to help and make Django pull it forward.
All right, it's time for a game. We're gonna switch it up for those who might be getting a little bored. So we're handing to each of these, each of the panelists a whiteboard. And we're going to go rapid fire through a few technologies, like a half a dozen. And I didn't want to make it too much of a technology conversation, but really to underscore the point of we are paying attention to what's coming up. We know what's happening, and we all have kind of opinions. So let's also give you a whiteboard. You get an eraser and a pen. All right, let's do this. I should have had an assistant up here. There you go. Pass them down. Yeah. And we'll start on this end. There you go. Cool. Okay, this is gonna be fun. I want pumped, y'all, okay? Let's get into it. This is a game show or something, right? Cool, all right. So this could end up like excluding some people from your Pictionary game, or maybe it'll be fine. It could also end up being like gymnastics or something. All right, so how does everyone feel about async? Async in Django, async in being included. How do you feel of it? You could put a face or a poop emoji. I don't know. Are you gonna tell like? Sure. This is, yeah. We're gonna do, and we're gonna go through. All right. Ready, set, turn. Everybody turn. All right. Question mark. Okay. Check mark. Smiley face. These look good. These look. It depends. Yes. Okay. I want the question mark. Can you describe your question mark quickly?
I think it's still an unknown.
Your remote.
It's still an unknown. Is
Yeah.
The why for the question mark.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, how do we all feel? I'll give you a chance to erase. Do this before I'll give you a chance to erase. How do we all feel about type annotations in Django? You're puzzling, okay? Okay, when you're ready, like hold it the wrong, yeah, you can flip it. How are you gonna do? Okay, so we go. Any, is that a half check mark? Oh, yes, please. It depends, Shug. Okay, let's see. Yes, please. Do we feel strongly about the yes, please?
I do. I think it's, I mean, I feel like there's a ship that's sailing, and type annotations is something that projects do. I see it installed a lot with clients too, where they're using third-party type annotations, and maybe there's a technical reason we should not include them at this point, but I don't know what it is. So.
Cool. All right. All right, so next one, I'll give you a chance to erase. Third-party logging, observability, and monitoring. So this would be any way that it could be included in Django, or making it more susceptible or accepted in, or provide resources or endpoints for it. How do we feel about it? Got some thoughts. I love these pensive faces. All right, when you're ready, turn. Okay, how? Okay, question marks, lots. If it works, I like. Need convincing. Ooh, okay, what's your opinion? What is the blob? Can you tell me a little bit more about why the blob?
I didn't really know what to.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a nice blob. It's a nice splat. Okay, we're gonna go through a few because we've been talking for a while. Really great stuff. But let's skip to. We had a great talk about Python in the browser, Python in WebAssembly, WASM, Pyodide. How do you feel about that and its incorporation with Django? Shout out to Absurd Django. That was a really great talk. Yeah, let's see. All right. Okay, turn. Yeah, there it is. Isomorphic Django, maybe. Oh, is that a crown? Yeah. I like it. It's the future. Exciting. Excited, maybe? Okay, all right.
I'm excited about it, but maybe we should do it.
Okay, I like it. Okay. It sounds like we're on similar pages. Let's go with HTMX. We're all friendly on this stage. Okay. Turn the boards. Yes. Okay. Nice. I like it. And Marius, you have a pattern of these faces. I like the faces. Okay, let's talk about serverless Django. How do we feel about serverless Django? I don't knows are acceptable, but I like funny responses. I'm hoping for a poop emoji. Well, not for this one. I'm just in general. I want to interpret a poop emoji. All right, are we turning it? It's hard. Question mark. All right. What is serverless anyway? Fair. Fair. Okay. Oh, it's hard. Question mark. All right. Okay. And anybody of that particular one want to describe a little more on why they got the Yeah?
What's the use case?
Yeah. Okay. I like that. But it's more of the theme of let's explain it. Let's, before we support it. I get it. Okay. Cool. Are we doing on time? I think we're pretty okay. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we are past time, but we've had a lot of fun. All right. Time flies when we're having fun. It's been really, really great. I'm so glad you guys did this for me. Y'all are such good sports.